Without stars and without sleep. Dirty nights clinging to you like tar. Like this one night, back in 1938. Boston. The Great Depression tsunami was just sweeping over what was left of America. Misery, hunger, despair. Times are hard, they said. Times were worse than hard. And the bar was about to close. As far as I was concerned, this was just another intoxicated day drawing to an end. If only I knew.
Hey everybody, this is Curtis from PSN Stores. Today we're looking at White Knight, a game that just recently came out last week on the PS4. This is the opening of the game. This game is it's kind of a mixture of like a film noir and survival horror. What you're seeing here is basically it's your main character. He is It is 1938. He's gonna be driving along a road, and then, well, you'll see in just a minute. But it's probably gonna if you played a lot of like survival horror, if you're a fan of that genre, it's probably gonna remind you of a few different games, Resident Evil, and in some ways, like Alone in the Dark, maybe a little Silent Hill. The core mechanic is that you have matches, and so as you see, like, it's got a very striking art style, just the black and white, and there's a lot of imagery and symbolism representing light and darkness, the moon and the sun, and the way that, you know, they refer to the moon as a luna. A lot of like a lot of symbolism revolving around like women and just the differences between like a black and white sort of symbolic storytelling kind of deal going on here. And part of that is you're gonna find yourself for the majority of the game you're in a mansion, and this is a ghost story. And so ghosts are kind of the things that you want to avoid, and to do that you want to stay in the light. And so you have these matches. The matches won't necessarily protect you, but they are in limited supply, and they are the thing that helps you see. And if you are in the darkness for too long, you will be consumed. We're not going to see a whole lot of that. This is the type of game that it's about 5 hours long, maybe a little bit longer, and because of the way that it plays out, like, it's something I just wanted to do a video of the beginning of the game rather than anything kind of close to like the middle or the end or anything without spoiling stuff. It's got a pretty good story. Like, I like this style. I like, you know, noir stories, and I like survival horror, and I like ghost stories, and it's pretty good. It's there's a point that you're probably about midway through, you're probably going to immediately guess what happens. But it doesn't make it like a bad story or anything. It's pretty predictable, but it's still like, if you let it kind of take you for a ride, I think you'll enjoy it.
I didn't run her over. I hope she's still alive. Then, the pain. Terrible pain on my side. And this question. Where am I?
So as you saw there, this girl just kind of appeared in the road. I got in a car accident. I'm injured, slightly injured, and now I'm gonna be led to this mansion, hopefully in search for help, which is kind of how things go. And then, of course, obviously I am dragged deeper into this mystery of what has happened within this mansion and outside it in some ways. So the way this game kind of tells its story is through newspaper clippings, letters, photos, any like many different things that you will pick up. There are like, I think there's over like 100 collectibles. Just between, I mean, so your collectibles will carry over through playthroughs. There's not like a chapter select or anything, so like if you miss stuff, you're gonna have to go through again. Luckily, once you know what you're doing, the game is pretty short. But there's Boston Daily News, and that's more of a that is a thing that as you play through the game and the story progresses, you'll kind of see different clippings added to this newspaper that kind of explain what was going on. Your photo album. I'll try to show maybe a couple of these. As you go, you can scroll through and you'll see a bunch of different photos that you're collecting. And some of that will make more sense, like if you're playing it on your own and you have read some of this other thing. So there's newspaper articles you can pick up. There are victim letters you can pick up. There are like diary entries for each of these 4 characters. Tons and tons of stuff. Almost too much. Like, some of this stuff is like, you'll find a letter and then 7 feet, or like just a couple feet away, is like another letter. And then on the other side of the room is like 3 other letters. So sometimes it feels like maybe there's too much of that. Like, usually I don't mind games that kind of tell their story with like documents you pick up and stuff like that, but it kind of does feel like maybe there's too much here. So what we're gonna see here is the opening, and I'm probably gonna stop right after you get into the mansion. And that'll be kind of the first chapter of the game. Of which there are 6. The first chapter is very short, and then most of the remaining chapters are a bit longer. But kind of the main gameplay mechanic here is there's a lot of like very simple puzzle solving that you're gonna do. And then there are ghosts that are kind of roaming the house that you want to avoid. For the most part, the ghosts kind of patrol a very distinct area. Every once in a while, you'll see one that kind of pops up seemingly randomly. There can be some annoyances. Just maybe 2 or 3 parts of this game I found a little annoying. I'm going to turn subtitles on. Or maybe not. Well, they're on, so. Anyways, there's a couple segments where you've got to, like, navigate a very narrow room, and escape from some ghosts, and it can get a little frustrating. It's not too bad, but there are points like that. For the most part, it's not too bad as far as, like, staying away from ghosts, because if they do catch you, it is like a one-hit kind of deal. Like, if they get close enough, you're dead. And then you have to restart at the last place you saved. One of the things that kind of causes that frustration is the game has fixed camera angles, which I do really like, because as you see here, you get a lot of really cool perspectives throughout the game. But one of the issues is sometimes when you're in like a cramped hallway or room, you're not really able to see, I mean, even beyond just kind of the limited sight that you would have inside that house because of how dark everything is. You're not really like, sometimes it obscures your view enough to where like sometimes you can be completely caught by surprise by a ghost that maybe you weren't expecting to see. And what I mean by that is mainly like there were a handful of times where I just died almost immediately, and I wasn't. It kind of felt like a little a little unfair there. It's not a huge deal, but it does happen sometimes. But most of the game is like, you know, you walk in the room, usually there's a puzzle to solve, and just it's kind of like a almost point and click adventure in a way where you just have free movement, and you just kind of walk around the room, you explore, you kind of inspect a bunch of different things, and eventually you'll kind of stumble upon the solution of the puzzle. Not many. Most of them aren't too difficult to understand.
Anyone would understand that.
But one like tiny complaint I do have is, so you can carry up to 12 matches at a time, and like, because I like to, you know, because there are so many collectibles, I go into a room or I go into a new area, and I just naturally I try to explore as much as I can and try to find all the newspaper clippings, all the diary entries, all the letters. And because I'm doing that, you know, a match doesn't last very long, so I end up using up most of my matches. So there were a couple times where I just kind of found myself with very few, or there was a couple times I just ran out and I couldn't do anything. I just had to die essentially because there were no matches around in that particular room that I was in, and the only way to get out was into like pitch darkness. And due to that, like I would die no matter what I did. Luckily, even though like if you die you return to your save point, the game will automatically save any collectibles you find. So actually a lot of times I would just make sure I got the collectibles, and if I died it was like, well, whatever, I can skip all that now and do whatever it is I need to do, because those collectibles were saved. So that was pretty convenient. But yeah, so this game is very atmospheric, very moody. It's got a really good vibe, you know, to it, and despite, you know, just a few different little like tiny complaints. Again, as I explained before, just there's a couple areas that are a little frustrating. There's some trial and error to it. But for the most part, like I really enjoyed this game quite a bit, and it's. Definitely, if you're a fan of kind of the old school survival horror games, if you like the kind of games that had like your fixed camera angles and things like that, I think you'll enjoy it a lot.
The smell of fear. And yet, I entered the place because I had no choice. I was praying to find a phone.
It kind of the matches stuff kind of reminds me in a way of the ink ribbon save system for Resident Evil. To save, there is like a recliner that you can sit down in, and you kind of rest, and that's how you save in a game in this game. But in order to do that, you have to have light shining onto that chair. In most cases, there's a candle that you can light, and in doing that, you have to use up one of your matches. So that kind of reminded me of the ink ribbon stuff. My only other complaint is that, so you can hold 12 matches at a time, and really, for the most part, matches are in pretty large supply. Most of the duration of the game, I didn't have a huge issue with matches, but sometimes like you will go to light a match and it just won't light. It'll just be a dud, and that can be a little frustrating too. Especially when you get, like, sometimes I had 2 matches just back to back just refused to light. So I lost 2 for no reason.
Darkness around me. I was usually not afraid of the dark. But there, on that day, I remembered I had a matchbox somewhere in my jacket. The urge to light a match was growing with every new chill running down my spine.
So I really like just how they have the tutorial written. In my pocket I found a box of matches. You know, to light the matches I did this. Or I could get some light by using the circle button. I just like how they integrate that. So there's kind of your first glimpse of a ghost. This game's not really scary. There's a lot of tension, a lot of build up. There's maybe one or two what you would consider a jump scare, but for the most part, it's not scary as much as it is just very tense and very moody and atmospheric. And there's some build up, but nothing that's like building up to like a jump scare or anything like that. I'll show a little bit of this. So here's your match mechanic. You can hold up to 12 at a time, and you can light a match, and that match will last for a little while, not too long. And you kind of use that to explore. There are some areas where you can, so see here, there's some boots on the ground that I can look at. A lot of different things to inspect, things that are unrelated to puzzle. Like some things you don't have to, but like there's pictures on the walls you can look at. That show like family members of the people who lived in this house. And then some they're okay, like right there. So like for whatever reason that match was a dud. So yeah, so there are times where you'll be able to turn on lights in a room, and then I can just tap circle really quick to put out that match since I don't need it right now. Right now I have a limp, but eventually I recover. There are some instances where you'll have to push something out of the way, or you'll have to use two hands to do something, and in order to do that, you'll have to light the room, or light that area and put your match out. And so yeah, a lot of like inner dialogue for this character, as he's like reading things and reacting to things that are happening and talking about his experience. Again, very noir, in that respect. I just think a lot of this is done really well. A lot of the atmosphere, a lot of just the progression through the story and watching it all unfold. Even though again, there's going to be a point where you're probably going to start predicting exactly what's about to happen. And that's fine, because it's still just really nice. It's a good story. And it's kind of fun to see everything unfold and interesting. And I like reading all these collectibles. I do. But to give you an example, so Selena's got 15 different journal entries. William has 25. Henry's only got 3. Margaret has 24. I think there's like 10 victim entries. There's 10 newspaper articles. There's a ton of photos, and there's 60 entries in the Boston Daily News. So there's so many of these and again, like a lot of them are placed so close together that it kind of feels like maybe too much. And so maybe part of me does kind of wish there was maybe a little less of those, because there were some times where I'll enter a room and spend the next 3 minutes just reading a bunch of different journal entries, which is fine because it's an interesting backstory, but I kind of, I want to get back to playing the game and not distracted by that stuff. But at any rate, that is White Knight. It is out now on PS4. It is $15. I finished it a few hours ago. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I've got some nitpicks. There are definitely some issues it has, but overall, I think if you like survival horror, I think if you like kind of the noir style of storytelling, this if you see this and you think this looks interesting, you're probably gonna enjoy it. Again, just a couple instances of minor frustration, but I think overall, I think it does really well with what it sets out to do, and it's just unique. It's a very unique kind of game, and something we don't get very often. So if it looks interesting to you, definitely check it out. That is all I've got. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all later.